Alright, today we're going to tie this flashy minnow I plan on using this fall for steelhead. I've had success with similar patterns and I like to tinker around with the vise, so came up with another one here. It's not really too tough to tie. It's tied on a shank, 40mm shank, and a stinger hook in the back, some barbell eyes in the front, and obviously you can see it's pretty flashy. So we'll get tying here right now. So I have the shank in the vise. So I'm just going to get some thread on the hook here. Go all the way back to the rear, and we'll go all the way back to the front again, just to get a nice coat of thread on there. I already have my stinger hook rigged up here, so I find it easier to pre-rig them. That way you can get the hook aligned exactly where you want to. It makes it a lot easier when you tie it in, rather than putting the wire on the shank first, then attaching the hook. Get that wire on top of the shank. Keep going forward. When we get up close to the eye, we're going to tuck that tag ends down through that loop. And bring it back. And then we're going to just keep the wire on the bottom of the shank here. And before we get back to the little return loop here, I'm going to trim this wire so it's a nice little flush connection, or as close as flush as we can get here. But it'll all be covered up with the flat braid, so it's not too critical. Mash that down a little bit. Get some barbell eyes and put them right on the bottom, right where the return wire from the loop eye comes back. We want to have enough space in front of these so that the ice wing material lays back nice. So do some figure 8 wraps around these, get it nice and tight, and then do some circle wraps around the top. That'll help tighten it even more. This is some glue, a gel type glue, Loctite. You don't need too much, just enough to smear it around a little bit. We can take our bobbin, push some of that gel around into the cracks and crevices, and I'm going to try to coat the whole thread and definitely get it around the eye there, barbell eye. Keep everything nice and strong and intact. And clean that glue off your bobbin right away before it gets gunked on there. Alright, so the first material that we're going to put on is some crystal flash. This is only about 3 or 4 strands. Double it over the thread. Tie it right on top of the shank. Trim some right at the hook shank, and then you can leave some a little bit long, out extending past the hook. And next we're going to take a bit of slapping. Tied in by the tip. I'm going to pull the fibers back as we wrap, that way they'll flow nicely. You don't need too many turns, maybe 4 or 5 at the most. Tie that off, trim it. Do a couple more wraps there, make it strong. So next material I'm going to tie in some, this is actually some white, or like a light cream from coyote tail. Arctic fox is good, as well as any other type of fur that's similar to the Arctic fox. You don't need too much. We're going to separate out all the under fur so we have just the nice long fibers. We want that on top, let it extend out past the crystal flash a little bit. So use a couple loose wraps. I just kind of use my nail to flare it around the top of the shank a little bit, just to spread it out. Doesn't have to go down the sides of the shank, just splay it out, flare it out over the rear of the hook there. Alrighty, so next material we're going to put on is some Amherst fibers. Don't really need too many. Maybe 5, 6 at the most. So I'm just going to use my nails here to just kind of help the fibers separate and give them a little curl. I'll let these extend all the way back to where the coyote tail went to. So we'll add just a little bit of speckling to the pattern. Now next we'll take a little bit of ice wing fiber. This is pearl with a green hue. You don't need too much. Tie that right on top of the shank. Fold it back over. And we're going to do the same on the bottom here. Pull out some of the extra fuzz. When you get back to where the tips are of the coyote, pinch it, and then you can just pull it and break it. It'll snap right off the ice wing fiber. And we'll get this adjusted later, but just trim it a little bit on the bottom just to kind of keep it under control. Now I'm going to take some flat braid. This is just like a pearl flat braid. Bind that to the shank. Do a little half hitch here behind the eye. Bring our bobbin cradle over. Do. A little wrapped around the vise there, but no big deal. Work your way forward with the flat braid, making edge-to-edge wraps. You can stop right at the eye, just short of it's okay. So we're going to have some more materials to put on here. Tie the flat braid off, trim the excess. I'm wrapping back over the flat braid a little bit to make the fly a little bit stronger and give me some room for some wraps of schlappen and some more material to add. So now we're going to take some pink schlappen, tie it in by the tip. Again, fold it back as you wrap to keep the fibers flowing towards the rear of the fly. You can use a few more wraps in the back. This will help to add a little bit more bulk to the front of the fly, give it more of a taper of a bait fish. Alrighty, that should be good. Trim off that stem. Wrap back over those fibers a little bit if you want. It's okay if it kind of compresses over the body. It'll still hold it shaped nicely in the water. Trim some of that extra off. So now we're going to take some more Arctic Fox. Excuse me, this is coyote tail, but you can use Arctic Fox like I had said earlier. Again, you don't need too much, just keep it nice and sparse. After you tie one or two, you'll start to get a feel for how many fibers you need to get the look you want. Now this, I just want it to go just to the hook point. And next we'll just add a little bit more Amherst, help with the speckling. And this will go the same length as the coyote we just tied in. Use my nail to kind of spread them out a little bit. Starting to take shape there a little bit. Starting to see the form. Obviously, the vise kind of kicks the hook up high here in the rear and flares down this the flash material on the bottom. But once we get the fly out of the vise here, you'll see what it looks like. Next, we're just going to take some chartreuse or lime ice dubbing. I'm just going to spin that on the hook. Excuse me, spin that on the thread. And we'll wrap it on the shank here around the dumbbell eyes, protect them a little bit. Figure 8 wraps, making sure you cover everything up real nice. So you could probably stop there and fish that if you wanted to. I wouldn't see that why that wouldn't work for steelhead. But we'll add some more flash to it, give it more of a little better bait fish profile. So now we're going to take some ice wing fiber. This is chartreuse. Take a little clump tied in the front here. A couple turns. I'll take another clump. Tie this on the bottom. As you can see, I didn't fold them back yet. So both at the same time here. That way we can kind of get it to cover around the shank 360. Alright, so that's basically the fly right now. We're done the tying part. We can whip finish here. I always have a habit of doing 2 whip finishes. And it's up to you. We could have switched to black thread too if you're fun, if you like that look, or we can get some black lacquer, use that to color it up, or we can even use just a Sharpie and then coat it with head cement. So the top part here, we'll let that go all the way past the hook and get it all the way to where the pearl eye stub was, and that's where we're going to pinch it and break it off. And on the bottom, right where the pink schlappen ends, that's where we're going to break it there. And if you take the hook out of the vise here, the shank out of the vise, you can see it's starting to get a nice shape. There's a little bit of extra flash sticking here out of the bottom, so you can either pinch it and break it as we've been doing, or you can trim it up a little bit if you want. That's just basically it right there. Nice flashy minnow. We'll go ahead and put some head cement on it, but that's it. I'm gonna tie a bunch of these up in various colors I'm sure it'll work for other species other than trout. Good luck this fall. Have a good time and good fishing.